Hello, I'm Glenda Greenwald, CEO and founder of the Aspen Brain Institute. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our growing community of 21st century global seekers, seeking to be educated and delighted at the cutting edge. Now, we are proud to announce Aspen Brain Institute's first Brain Healthy Cooking series. It's a 5-part holiday gift to our global brain health community. This special virtual series will serve as a curated guide to brain healthy cooking for people who love delicious food, and also to people who support their own and their families' brain health, just in time for Thanksgiving and the holidays. So each session will be led by our guest host, Dr. Annie Fenn, founder of the Brain Health Kitchen. And we'll feature demonstration from guest chefs and renowned brain health scientists. Now, registrants will be provided the recipes before each session. Now, you might ask, why is Aspen Brain Institute sponsoring a brain healthy cooking series? Well, it's because diet and food choices are by far the strongest variables that we have control over for matching our healthy brain span to our lifespan. And since eating and cooking the brain healthy way is always a good choice, we will showcase Dr. Annie Fenn and 5 other star chefs and scientists. Details and schedule and registration are all on our website, aspenbraininstitute.org. And we'd like to thank Lugano Diamonds for their generous support as our national underwriter. And we thank them also for choosing Aspen Brain Institute as a nonprofit worthy of their support and their values. And also for making our Zoom cooking series available to the public, free to the public, and able to be viewed worldwide. We'd also like to thank Purist Magazine and the Purist Online as our media sponsors. Our audiences and our values and our themes are aligned in an almost perfect way, and we look forward to engaging our mutual global audiences for this cooking series. It is my honor and privilege to bring you these new episodes. Let's see what we can learn and explore together. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Annie Fenn, the Aspen Brain Institute's guest host and chef. So, Dr. and chef Annie Fenn is a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist who practiced medicine for more than 20 years. When she realized that helping people change what they eat was just as powerful as an intervention as prescribing pills or doing procedures, she traded her stethoscope for an apron and went to culinary school. And that led to Dr. Annie founding the Brain Health Kitchen in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is the only school focused specifically on resisting Alzheimer's and other dementias. Students learn which foods are most neuroprotective, which accelerate cognitive decline, and how to prepare foods using brain healthy cooking techniques. And now we'll learn all of these skills as well. So Dr. Annie and Dr. Sherzais, Team Sherzais, take it away. Let's get cooking.
Thank you, Glenda. And welcome back, everyone, to the Brain Health Kitchen. Today, we are cooking with the husband and wife team, Doctors Aisha and Dean Sherzais. Aisha and Dean are neurologists, making a crucial impact on many aspects of brain health. Dr. Aisha Sherzais trained at Loma Linda University and UCSD and completed a fellowship in vascular neurology from Columbia University. She's currently finalizing her PhD in nutritional epidemiology at Loma Linda University. Aisha is also a trained chef, having studied at the Natural Gourmet Institute in New York, giving her unique understanding of nutrition as a natural form of medicine. Dr. Dean Sherzais trained at Georgetown University with a subsequent fellowship in neurodegenerative diseases at the National Institutes of Health, followed by a second fellowship in dementia and geriatrics at the University of California, San Diego. He also holds 2 master's degrees in advanced sciences at UCSD and a master's in public health from Loma Linda University. Finally, he has received a PhD in healthcare leadership at Loma Linda Andrews University. As you can see, Aisha and Dean wear many hats as neurologists and brain health advocates. And they are food people too, as you will see. Both are passionate about a whole food, plant-based way of life. And they share recipes on social media and in their wonderful book, The Alzheimer's Solution, a breakthrough program to prevent and reverse the symptoms of cognitive decline at every age. So today, we're going to be zooming into the kitchen of Dr. and Dr. Sherzais in Redondo Beach, California. And we're going to be cooking with an emphasis on nut-based cheeses and why that can be beneficial to your brain health. Aisha and Dean will show us how to make their Portobello Pizza with cashew mozzarella. And then I'm going to show you a really easy appetizer that you can use over the holidays for Lemony Cashew Ricotta. Aisha and Dean, welcome to the Brain Health Kitchen.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much for having us. It's wonderful to be here with you. Love what you do. Excited to be here.
We're very excited. This is the most important way of healthcare that you can actually get to the public, and we love it.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love how you're advocates, not just of the science, but of how food can play that role in our life, of really developing a brain healthy lifestyle and preventing Alzheimer's and dementia. So one thing I have to ask you before we start cooking is you've come up with this really novel concept called Neuro, N-E-U-R-O, which is basically a plan for brain health. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's central to what our program is, which is N-E-U-R-O. Each of those stand for an important concept of lifestyle. N is for nutrition, E is for exercise, U is for unwind. For us, unwind is not just stress reduction, actually increasing good stress, right, which is a very nuanced thing. R is for restorative sleep, not just sleep. I can knock on your stress reduction right there. and restorative sleep is critical because you have to go through those deep phases of sleep for cleansing of the brain. And O is for optimizing mental activity, which is challenging your brain. That actually helps grow the brain. Those 5 concepts, if people undertake that kind of a lifestyle, truly undertake it at its maximum, you can reduce your chance of Alzheimer's by as much as 90%, which was a controversy when we first started, but it's no longer controversial. Right. And we've actually done several research papers that have been published in several journals around each of those concepts. Imagine that. What you do in your home can reduce your chance of dementia by 90%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so happy
that in 2017, and I read that in your book, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And since then, here we are in 2020, right? And the Lancet Commission came out saying that there are 12 modifiable risk factors for Alzheimer's.
Correct.
Correct. That 90% number.
It does, and those 12, if you kind of look at them, they actually fit within neuro, because alcohol and is part of nutrition and different and socialization is part of the optimized. So the neuro concept kind of is inclusive of all of that, and some of them are more important than others, but in reality, nutrition is core.
Exactly.
And Aisha, you are the skilled, the trained chef in the family. And Dean, does that make you the sous chef?
I am. I'm definitely the sous chef. I'm always the one that's next to her.
And the expert taster, I have to say.
Following her lead.
You know this better than anyone, Annie. I think there is tremendous amount of information of what foods are healthy, what people should eat, and what they should avoid. I think we have enough data on that. It's the application of that knowledge in communities and, trying to eat and changing behavior on a regular basis that's key. And so I know you agree with this, but I think cooking or just the knowledge of how to prepare healthy food is crucial. And I think everybody needs to have some experience in the kitchen to prepare at least 2 to 3 main healthy dishes that they can rely on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I love it that there's a renaissance now in healthy food. Healthy food is so delicious. It's so more exciting than it was even just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So tell me about your pizza.
Oh, so, I can spend hours in the kitchen, but I know not a lot of people are very excited about spending a lot of time in the kitchen because life. So we chose to create something really delicious pizza. And, it has mushrooms. It's like portobello mushrooms, which are some bell peppers, onions, lots of spices, which, as you know, has a lot of anti-inflammatory components. And ounce for ounce, it is one of the healthiest foods out there. So we're going to make that. And then instead of using regular dairy cheese, we're actually going to make a cashew cheese, a cashew mozzarella, and then also include some cashew Parmesan cheese onto it. So kind of looking at some plant-based cheeses this time.
This is our kids, one of the kids' favorite foods.
Oh,
We have
yeah,
a
for sure.
13-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son, and this really gets them excited.
Exactly. So I kind of prepared a couple of things ahead of time, and I'm just going to start the conversation. So we have some red onions here that I cut ahead of time because I wanted to avoid some onion tears in front of the camera. To use any color, I'm going to go with some green and some red just to kind of represent the Italian flag on top of the pizza. And the first thing I'm going to do is just really chop them quickly and bake them a little bit just to caramelize those little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper to bring out the flavors. And then right after that, we're going to marinate our portobello mushroom. Annie, a lot of times when people think of healthy food, they think it's bland, that it doesn't have any flavor. But once you learn a couple of techniques like marination or roasting or caramelizing vegetables or adding some nut-based cheeses and fats and some salt and spices, you can get one of the most amazing, delicious dishes ever. So super excited that this is a super healthy dish and also extremely delicious.
Oh, I can't wait. Now, I've never made cashew mozzarella. I've made lots of other types of nut-based cheeses, but I can't wait to see how you make the mozzarella.
Well, we're going to do it the easiest way. I mean, there are variations of the recipe, and you can add multiple different elements to it to change its texture. Mozzarella cheese in real life is very stringy and it's stretchy, but we're just going to focus on developing a really unique flavor, giving it that deep umami flavor that cheese has. And it's a quick version of it so that you can get in and out of the kitchen and make this right away for either lunch or dinner, mostly dinner. All right, so we have
and nothing like a good healthy sauce or cheese to excite food. I mean, our kids eat vegetables and fruits by the ton loads. And it's usually because there's a little sauce or something on the side that they can dip it in. So by doing so, you add two healthy elements, the sauce or the cheese itself, but also all the vegetables that they can consume alongside of that. That's a profound trick that families can actually use to introduce new foods, new items by using the things that people are familiar with. I mean, the concept of cheese is the most familiar 20th century added food. I mean, one of the things, sugar is another one. And we want to turn that upside down from an unhealthy food that it is to one that's actually medicine.
Absolutely.
So what are the benefits to the brain when someone switches from, say, a dairy-based cheese to a nut-based one? What are the benefits that you can optimize?
So as you know, cheese is one of the major sources of saturated fats. So, and we have enough data showing that when you reduce saturated fat in your diet, you can significantly reduce the risk of stroke, Alzheimer's disease, and general vascular health. So the tiny little arteries that supply oxygen and nutrition to the different parts of the brain, they're very susceptible and sensitive to the type of fat that you consume. So reduction of saturated fat is important. And, when you switch from a dairy-based cheese to a nut-based cheese, you're actually reducing saturated fats and increasing polyunsaturated fats, which are incredible. It actually is a building block of the brain, and it helps you just grow and thrive.
The polyunsaturated, especially omega-3, is such an important element of the for brain development.
Yeah.
We just did 2 major reviews, comprehensive reviews, which are, as you know, are painful to do those reviews. Both of them are submitted. One is.
I'm going to give an update. So
Yeah.
I'm going to place this in the oven. The oven has been heated to 375 degrees. And I just sprayed the onions and the colorful bell peppers with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil spray. And it's going to go in the oven. Okay, carry on, Dean. Sorry.
That was so appropriate. It was like all the news we're used to these last few days. It was an urgent message, urgent news.
Love it.
It is.
I like how you spray the vegetables with the oil, because even though extra virgin olive oil has some health benefits, we don't want to overdo it.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
So as minimal as possible, but enough to increase or enhance the flavor. And also, it's a wonderful fat to use. Okay.
Yeah, the reviews we did was one on fats, especially omegas, and the developing brain. And the second paper was on fats and the aging brain, which are very appropriate, the 2 ends of the spectrum. And we're beginning to realize that omega-3 is so profoundly important. It's always better to get your nutrients and vitamins and everything from food form, but we have to be a little more cognizant of the fact that in those 2 ends, there are some challenges that we have to be aware of. We can't be magical just because, so that we have to be aware of that. And nut-based cheeses are double beneficial because they reduce the saturated fat profoundly. But the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, which is always difficult to get that appropriate ratio, is much better with the nut-based cheeses. So that in itself creates a wonderful synergy when it comes to both taste and one of the most important nutrients for the brain, which are the omegas. It's absolutely essential.
While Dean was talking science, I made the marinade for the Portobello Pizza. And this is essentially balsamic vinegar, aged balsamic vinegar, some oregano, some paprika, garlic powder, just really easy pantry items. And you could add a little bit of salt, but I added a touch of coconut aminos just to kind of give it that saltiness, but not too much. And I'm just going to pour this on top of the balsamic vinegar. And this recipe is actually for 4 Portobello pizzas, but I'm going to make 2 right now because the kids are not at home and it's just for me and Dean. And just covering it. The most beautiful thing about mushrooms is, as you know, Annie, it just absorbs any flavor that you add to it. And that balsamic vinegar along with the smoked paprika and the oregano, oh, it's gorgeous. It's just unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really.
Mushrooms are becoming their own brain healthy food in their own right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes, and that's how long the vegetables are going to roast in the oven. And then we're going to add everything together.
It's like I said, it's incredibly, so there are several things to taste. Texture is a big thing.
Yeah.
Now we know that for men, I know that I don't want to separate, but there is a component here. I mean, all this battle that we're having is actually has to do, a lot of it has to do with also the taste, of course, but texture as well. The ability to bite through something. Mushrooms are absolutely amazing in reproducing some of that textural feeling. So we love it. Aisha was talking about salt. Salt is a tricky thing. Right. Salt is not healthy. Of course, we need sodium in our body, our entire nervous system, not just nervous system, every cellular structure in the body requires sodium, potassium, and all of this stuff to operate both. But we know that one of the biggest problems we have in healthcare system now, be it vascular or otherwise, is too much salt in our diet. Mm-hmm. Salt causes so much chaos. So we have to be extra cognizant. And I have to say, one of the things that we hate is gimmicks. So now sea salt versus this salt, just because you name it a different way, it doesn't change the sodium composition of something.
Salt is salt.
Salt is salt. We have to be aware of it. And so, because that's a big factor for healthcare, be it blood pressure, which is the #1 risk factor for stroke, for heart disease, and ironically, 20% of dementia and Alzheimer's has been associated, and we think it's actually more than that, with hypertension, which is driven by salt mostly. So be careful And one of the things that we were always worried about is, okay, so we've gotten rid of salt now. What do we do? Where's the taste come from? And when you discover the world of herbs and spices, oh my goodness. I mean, this is beyond science, because herbs and spices, pound for pound, are the most nutritious, meaning anti-inflammatory and antioxidant characteristics. But at the same time, they give you a plethora of tastes that salt can never make up for. So we're not completely against salt. I mean, if you need to put a little dash, that's fine, but you have so much more to replace it with. And that's the world of herbs and spices.
Absolutely. Okay, I think I'm ready to get the vegetables out.
Yeah. And the other thing we wanted to talk about was we've actually, although we're very much against reductionism, we're actually in charge of the largest clinical trial in the world in beach cities. And we're looking at influence of lifestyle and brain health, looking at cognition every year, following through, and lifestyle. The main thing we focus on is food and lifestyle in general, no gimmicks. And so we're very much against reductionism. You know, blueberries are wonderful, but if you're having a burger on the side and fries, no amount of blueberries are going to, replace that damage. So you have to be whole food. But there are some foods that it's good to be aware of. It's good to be cognizant of them, and that we call those the Neuro 9 and the 9 food items. But in reality, if you make your food around more vegetables, more fruits, more herbs and spices, and nut-based cheeses and sauces, you'll change your life completely.
Absolutely. Okay, next step. Now we've marinated our portobello mushroom for about 10 minutes or so. And you know what? If you marinate things easier and faster, it turns out even better. So we're going to put it on a baking sheet. I usually don't use 2 different baking sheets at home. I just use the same one, but we're in front of camera right now and I want to make sure everything looks clean and organized.
I like to save on dishes as well.
Yeah, my kitchen looks like a war zone sometimes when we cook with the kids, which, it's supposed to be like that. And I have a really good tomato sauce that essentially could be used as a pizza sauce or a marinara sauce. And it's cooked with tomatoes, a little bit of garlic, extra virgin olive oil, some oregano, and that's basically some salt and pepper. So I'm just going to pour this inside the portobello mushroom, like so, and making sure that we don't put too much of it because it's just going to ooze out of it and make it really messy. And if there's marinade inside the portobello mushroom, that's even better because it's just going to get absorbed once the mushrooms actually start cooking. And then I have my roasted vegetables here, the colorful green and red, and it could be yellow and orange, whatever color you want, but I'm celebrating Italy here. And we're just going to put 1/4 of each ingredient into each portobello. Like I said, this recipe is for 4 portobello pizzas.
I love it. You're piling on the vegetables.
Oh yes,
yeah,
always.
And it's great to experiment. I actually made a portobello pizza with baked butternut squash the other day, and it was good. It was really good.
Amazing.
And especially if you allow the butternut squash to caramelize and just the sweetness comes out, and you add some smoked paprika with it. Oh, there's nothing like it. I love it. All right, piling on the veggies. Okay, Dean, is this too hot for you to handle? Maybe you could put it here.
No,
we don't
we're
want you to
good.
burn. Okay, if you could put it over there, thank you so much. And basically there we have.
Aisha sometimes challenges me by giving me burning hot food to take around. And that's the sous chef job of sous chef, yes.
Job as sous chef, huh?
Sous chef, yes.
And you can add some olives or any other vegetables that you have. So now I'm going to put this in the oven for about 10 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes and allow the edges to cook really well while we make the cashew cheese. All right, here it goes again.
And one thing that I want to make sure that we dispel some of the myths. We're big time about dispelling myths.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much myth out there that creates chaos and noise. And noise, what noise does in scientific world, and which is applied to public health, which is what we do, is when people hear so many different contradictory concepts, they just step back and say, oh, forget it. I'll just go do whatever I've been doing.
Yeah.
And it's critical that we change that idea, because so much of your health depends on the right kind of science being promulgated and spread. One of the new myths, we're not going to name the person, is like things that have lectins or
Don't get me started.
yeah, and tomatoes and beans.
Oh,
There is,
that makes me very sad.
this creates such chaos, and it's we don't have to worry about that. The concept of lectins, first of all, whether they're bad in the first place, and the part that's anti-metabolic, that can have some effect in some foods, we know that even by washing the foods or slightly cooking them or even processing them, 99% of it is gone. And then what you're left with is the healthiest foods out there.
Oh, absolutely.
And so to give up amazing food like beans, which is the number one food, the most common food found in blue zones, the healthiest places. One of the reasons we went to Loma Linda University to study this is because the only blue zone in America is Loma Linda University, or Loma Linda, or the Seventh-day Adventists. So you give up beans because somebody said that they're lectins, where they're the healthiest food. So I want to make sure that we dispel those myths about tomatoes and beans. Vegetables are amazing.
It was on the bad list for a while too.
Yeah.
You know, like some people are sensitive to nightshades, but nightshades as a rule, like eggplant, tomatoes, peppers, are not an inflammatory food. They actually have anti-inflammatory components, right?
Very
Absolutely.
True. Very true.
Absolutely.
It's important for us to be myth busters while we move forward. Okay.
So we definitely want people to eat a larger variety of plant foods. That's so important to have plant diversity. We've talked a lot in this Brain Healthy Cooking series about the gut microbiome, the gut-brain connection, and the importance of eating a lot of different plants. So that's why it's so great that you guys are out there myth busting.
Yeah, even the concept of gut microbiome. We know now for a fact that it's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a relationship to peripheral nerve. It's a relationship to fiber and short chain fatty acids and what it does to the brain. We know all that. But manipulating the microbiome is more complex than people think. It's not one microbiome. As you start from the mouth to the anus, it's a complete different series of microbiome. But the easiest way to manipulate it towards health is whole food, plant-based, and variety. Yeah. And the more variety, you're absolutely right. Yeah, if you eat potatoes, all you do is eat potatoes for 2-3 months, you're gonna have troubles.
And we know that people actually, they eat only few foods. If you look at studies and if you look at dietary patterns, most individuals don't get out of this 4 or 5 different kind of foods that are part and parcel of their life, whether it's chicken or a burger or a pasta or pizza. That's basically it. So like you said, increasing plant variety is the most important step to getting better as far as health is concerned, and just changing habits are concerned. All right. Okay. Star of the episode or this recipe is this cashew cheese. So I have a 2/3 cup of soaked cashews. You can soak them and it becomes softer and it's easier to blend it. The idea is to make this smooth. But if you have a strong blender or a strong food processor, don't worry about it. You can just use regular cashews as well. And this is raw, unsalted, of course. So I'm just going to put that in there. And then I'm going to add, whoops, there you go. Good catch. Thank you so much.
That was my nervous system working on optimally.
We're going to add about, good job. You've been eating well. We're going to add a little bit, about 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. Now, nutritional yeast can be found in any grocery store. And, the ingredient is actually a dried yeast product with some niacin and pyridoxine and other items. And it has a very deep, savory taste, and it has a yellowish color. It's wonderful. You can add it on top of your salads. And this is the key ingredient to plant-based cheeses. So I'm going to add a little bit of that. As you can see, I'm not measuring anymore because I make this so often, but hopefully for people who are interested to make this, they'll have the recipe. And I'm adding a touch of garlic powder. And then, one of the things that I'm going to add is miso. So miso is soybean paste, and it has some salt, and it's fermented soybean paste. I'm just going to add a little bit of it to kind of give it that savory umami flavor. I've actually had some recipes where I add some sauerkraut, And also it kind of gives that aged cheesy flavor to the mozzarella. So there's a lot of variation, but we're going to use nutritional yeast and miso here. And all I'm going to do is just kind of pulse it a little bit to mix everything. Oh, if this is on.
Yeah. Now, the most important thing is two of the nutrients that a lot of people worry about, and this is not just plant-based people, but we know that the United States, about 40% of the population has low levels of B12 and omega-3. Right here, right, what you just saw has tremendous amount of B12 and omegas in it. The nutritional yeast actually has B12 significant.
They've added to it, yeah.
So being aware that your food actually takes care of most of the nutrients, but also more importantly, in a synergistic way is so important.
That's right. All right.
Ready?
I'm gonna turn the pulse. All right.
The food processor is so quiet.
Now I'm going to add some boiling water, which kind of softens it even further. You don't have to trickle it down. You could just add it.
Oh. I bet that smells amazing.
It's looking good.
Yeah.
Just going to test the texture. So you don't want it too soft and you don't want it too stiff either. You just want it a little runny so that it can spread on top of the pizza. And obviously you can always taste and adjust the flavor. More nutritional yeast for cheesiness, a little bit more miso for saltiness. And I think it's ready.
Well, my job.
So easy.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. It has to pass.
So this is my job.
Oh, you're the taster.
Yes.
Wow.
Good.
Very good.
Okay, awesome.
It really is actually. I'm not just faking it. I don't know how to fake it.
I love it.
Wow, it's really good.
So
Okay.
you'll put that on the pizzas after they're done baking?
Just partially, but you could actually add it on top as well. Sometimes if the portobello mushroom is large and thick, I put it in the oven to cook a little bit before I add the cheese on top of it.
Mhm.
All right, let's do this. Ooh.
Beautiful.
All right, this looks amazing. You see the little char on the edges?
Oh,
That's very good. So this is going to cook a little bit more too. All right. Trying to stay as neat as I can here, Annie.
And very impressive. I can tell you went to culinary school. You've got your meat on top, and you clean up as you go.
You know how it is. You have to clean up after you start a next step, right?
So we believe in this concept.
I love how that cheese came out.
Yeah. We
have
believe
to
in this
say,
concept. Sorry. Go ahead.
When I switched from, I still eat a little bit of dairy, but when I started following the MIND diet recommendations, which showed a reduced risk of Alzheimer's as much as 53%, they recommend no more than an ounce of cheese a week.
Yeah.
So I started following those recommendations. I really weaned myself off cheese, and I didn't know what to think about plant-based cheeses. But now that I've been trying them and making them, I just think they're delicious in their own right.
Absolutely.
And we think that the MIND diet did so well despite some of the imperfections of the diet. Because some of the things they've included we were in a conference with the people who actually do the MIND diet, and we think that if you avoid some of the negative things that are in the MIND diet, the numbers can be a lot better than even 53%. We're talking about Aisha is the main researcher in the California Teacher Study Stroke diet study. This is one of the largest studies in the country, 133,000 people. And looking at stroke, but stroke is just one endpoint. It's not about stroke. It's all cognitive diseases, right? So looking at Mediterranean diet, those who adhered the most to Mediterranean diet reduced their chance of stroke by 44%. Now, that's Mediterranean diet. But as you went more and more and more plant-based, it affected the brain significantly more. So we are talking about a disease that kills 700,000 people a year. And 44% with diet alone.
Right.
That's not even exercise exercise. And even there, not the optimal diet. We think that Mediterranean diet, and when we did the factor analysis, which meaning looking at what elements are most important, it was the vegetables, 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 and vegetables.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
It was the greens, it was the whole grains, it was the berries, it was reduction of saturated fats, increasing polyunsaturated fats, which is so empowering because those are all really, really delicious foods.
Yeah, they're all the best tasting foods too. So while your pizza is finishing up, I'm going to show you my lemony cashew ricotta.
Let's do
Wonderful.
it. Also have been soaking cashews. You know, like you said, cashews are very soft, so they're very forgiving. So you can soak these for an hour, or you can soak them overnight. And if you forget to soak your cashews, which I do all the time, you can just boil them in a pot with water for like maybe 5 minutes. And that works as well. So for my cashew ricotta, I do 2 cups of raw and unsalted cashews. And then I add a 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. And it kind of cracks me up that I'm sharing this recipe because my grandmother in Sicily used to make real ricotta from like sheep and cow's milk. And I've traveled in Sicily to learn like the traditional ways to make it. And I actually like my cashew ricotta better now. I've really trained my taste buds a little bit. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to add a little bit of salt.
Yeah.
And I also try to get away with the minimum amount of sauce I need to make the food taste good. And that's something that over time also you can wean yourself off of. You know, if you have a very salty palate, then it's going to take, you know, some time of cooking with whole foods until you actually arrive at a point where the food tastes salty enough to you. And as soon as you cut out processed foods, it happens really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead. So it's a lot like your mozzarella, except I'm just getting a, you know, more of a ricotta-like texture. And so you want it to be slightly chunky, but a little bit creamy. I'm going to go a little bit more.
Looks good already. I'm gonna keep an eye on this.
Yes.
And that's basically it for ricotta. What I like to do with this is, you know how sometimes people put out ricotta cheese with like, you know, toasted bread and lemon and figs or things like that to make like crostini or bruschetta. You know, this is really good that way too. You can use it as a dip for crudité, you know, just like raw veggies dipped in it.
Yes.
And you can also, I use it to make, you know, lasagna. I use it to make eggplant rollatini, where you cut slices and roll it up and then bake it in a tomato sauce. I do the same thing with zucchini. It's really, really has that delicious sort of umami smell and flavor. And so just for an easy dip for Thanksgiving, I'm going to add some black olives and a little bit of grated orange zest. And then I have some of my spices, which are red pepper flakes, oregano, and a little bit of garlic powder. Mix all that up. And I'm going to add just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. And I put mine in this can so it doesn't glug, glug, glug out too fast.
Yes. All over the place.
Not only is it a ton of calories, it's also really expensive.
Good idea.
Yeah, the whole thing with the olive oil is the calorie story. I mean, we have to have some measure of complexity. If people have issue with calories and weight and things of that nature, they have to be even more cognizant of oils and nuts. You just have to be a little more aware of not overdoing it. That's all. Exactly.
And then I have my, you know, it's a holiday dip. It's something I can use as a component in a recipe. You know, unlike cheese, it's really filling. So a little bit goes a long way because, you know, nuts are also nutrient dense and calorie dense foods. Yes. But I can get by with, you know, eating just a little bit of this and be totally satisfied.
Absolutely.
Cheese, I keep eating it for some reason. It's very addictive.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, and there's lots of different ways you can make this dip. You could add just lemon to it. You could add other types of spices. Sometimes I add edamame and mint.
Oh, wow.
It really goes. So how are those pizzas coming?
It's looking really good.
Yeah, that's
So,
done.
Should we bring Glenda back in for the Q&A?
Yes.
Let's do that if your pizzas need a few more minutes. Because I know Glenda has some questions for you both as well.
Of course.
Do you want me to leave it in the oven because it's done?
Well, let's see it. Let's look
Yeah.
at it.
Yes.
Yeah, bring it up. Let's see it. Hi, Glenda.
Hi.
All right, let me just go ahead and bring that right now.
She's preparing the garnishing. Make it pretty.
Of course.
It is. So when Aisha was at Columbia University, I was in LA with the kids. Aisha was in New York. So every 2 weeks we would fly back and forth. And the rest of the time she would be in the ICU in the mornings and at night in cooking classes. So we were, whenever on the weekends we would get together, we were the guinea pigs, I guess. But it was a wonderful experience.
And was your family always plant-based or did it evolve over time?
We evolved. Aisha and I became vegetarian about 17 years ago. And then we went whole food plant-based. We say whole food plant-based because of the vegan can be unhealthy. I mean, if you Oreos are vegan and Coke is vegan and things of that nature. So whole food plant-based, and our kids have always been whole food plant-based and fairly healthy. Yeah.
Fantastic.
But when it comes to doing research in our communities, we have a major research project in Northern Arizona, another one in African American churches, which is starting in LA, and then of course cities and other places. We always talk about progress over perfection. Start in the direction of health instead of giving people the binary thing like all or none, because that's how you fail public health. You have to create the environment where people can actually see the taste in the food. They can slowly evolve towards the healthy diet. Okay, here we go.
Boy, am I grateful for you for just
filling
resuming
in
the
space.
conversation. Okay, all right, let's see.
Okay.
I think we're ready. So the portobellos are out of the oven. They look amazing. There is some browning of the
beautiful brown.
cashew mozzarella. There's just this incredible smell of the balsamic vinegar and the oregano and the smoked paprika.
Oh.
And I'm now going to just serve it. I
Oh.
might have to get it closer to the
Well,
to
you
the
can get the
camera.
plate too.
Yes.
Yeah, let's
Just
get
to-
a close up.
Would be good too. Sure.
All right, we have two. So one for
Yeah.
you, one for me.
We have to show you this on camera, closer to the camera.
Yes, absolutely. All right. And then
I'll take
obviously we're going to,
No, we're good.
I have some basil cut in a chiffonade way, very thin little leaves. Yes, please. Thank you. Except for
problem.
my fork. And I'm just going to garnish it. So garnish, just, you can garnish it with anything. You can, I love basil because it kind of brings everything together. But you can garnish it with some microgreens and crushed red pepper, maybe some more crushed cashews in the form of cashew Parmesan cheese. So there are different ways. Let me just add a couple of basil there for you as well, Dee. No, that actually went at the bottom. So I think we're good.
That's right.
All right, let me
Okay, let's show the.
Okay. This is what it looks like.
Oh,
I'm
it's
so excited to taste
gorgeous. It's really beautiful.
Here it is.
Amazing.
Looks very good. And you see that balsamic vinegar kind of just oozing out of the mushrooms. The cashew mozzarella cheese has a very nutty taste, and especially when it browns, it goes so well with
I didn't
the
wait.
veggies. Oh, you can't wait. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We know some
You
other
can
men
wait.
like
That's
that.
okay.
Thank you for the recipe.
That's a good sign, actually.
When you cut,
That's right.
and when you cut it, your knife just goes in very easily. It's very buttery. A little bit of taste of the cashews and the vegetables. It's a little hot, isn't it? It just came out of the oven.
No, it's good. Oh my goodness.
I wish you
What
guys would
is
have
this,
this.
Ecstasy. I
Yeah,
want
now we have to go to these more dry. The food is so much fun. It looks so delicious.
It's amazing. As I was telling right now, I would be making a lot more noises, but you'd have to censor me. It's amazing tastes.
We can't wait. We can't wait to try it.
Cannot wait to make that. You guys, thank you so much for all that you do, for sharing this beautiful recipe with us.
It's our
And now
pleasure.
we want to do something a little less fun, maybe hopefully interesting, but this has been the best part, tasting both of your, imagining the taste of both of Team Sherzai and Dr. Annie's great cooking, great whole food, plant-based, which we're all going that way, and we're feeling really good too. Well, let me ask you a couple questions, Annie. Mostly they're for Team Sherzai, but Annie always pipes in also. So I saw recently a workshop that you both did on brain health breakthroughs. And I wondered if you could mention, I know you talked about Neuro 9, but I read about 10 brain health breakthroughs that can slash your risk for dementia. Could you mention some of those if you would like to tell us about that?
I think you're talking about food and beyond that as well, right? Other things as well.
I gather.
Or just food.
You did a workshop called Brain Health Breakthroughs, I believe.
Yes.
Yes, it was a master class. That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as far as food, we know that for totality, as far as the science goes, as far as validated science goes, not just one-off paper from, I'm not gonna, the validated data shows whole food, plant-based, and more variety. As Annie said, it's not just one food, blueberries or this or that. Those are all great. Don't get me wrong. There are some foods that have much higher anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, as well as glucose regulation, as well as lipid regulation characteristics. But the more variety you have, I can't emphasize that enough.
That's true.
Vitamins are the working, so minerals and vitamins are what makes the mechanism of the body work. Thousands and millions of mechanisms, be it B12 and folate and all, but they work much more efficiently in synergy. So when you get a food or vitamin in food form, it works significantly more efficiently than you get it apart. Now, I'm not against taking vitamins when somebody is deficient and there's no cause that can be found. That's the second one. So whole food, plant-based, reduce saturated fat, reduce salt, reduce sugar and processed foods. So
And refined carbohydrates.
And refined carbohydrates, yes, exactly.
White flour, white bread, white pasta. Yeah.
The second thing around the same food thing is, don't worry about, so taste is not taste. Taste is habit. For people who travel the world, they realize that what they taste is great. When they go to a country that's different, it's not that those people don't know their taste. This is a habitual thing that we all develop.
Right.
I grew up in Pittsburgh. I grew up on, I had beef jerky and meat 7 times a day. That was my habit and that was my taste.
And your culture. Or
sugar. Aisha's a
Chocoholic.
chocoholic.
Sugaraholic. Yes.
Yeah. But now that where our habits are different, when she has a little bit too much sugar, this cloying feeling comes on, like it's too sweet.
Yeah, I get sick.
So realize that as you're changing your diet towards health, initially there will be a withdrawal, like drug withdrawal. Sugar has a drug withdrawal. You'll change and you will adapt. Be patient. And it's not a 21 day thing. Different foods, different time period. But you will change. And more importantly, your taste will change. Your taste will become more complex. You will get a plethora of tastes that you've never experienced before. And that's the beauty of it. So that's the taste, habit, and food. Exercise. Exercise is more important for your brain than any other body organ, even more important than the heart. Why? Because the most vascular organ in your body is
your brain.
Your brain.
Yeah, it's only about 2 to 3% of your body's weight, but it consumes up to 25% of your body's energy. So, exercise not only improves blood flow to the brain, but we start secreting and producing hormones that are neuroprotective, and they actually increase the connections between brain cells. So, exercising more has been
Yes.
associated with better brain health and even bigger brain size, especially when it comes to the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for encoding memory.
That's what I've heard, and I think it's the one thing even scientists don't argue about, the
Yeah,
validity
because
of
yeah,
exercise. Well, I want
no,
to ask you, I've got
yeah.
8 more questions. So, quickie, why should people think about brain health while they are young? Why should young people think about brain health?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Because brain health starts when you're young, not as just as young as 30-year-old. We're talking about, there was a study recently that showed that children that ate poorly and obesity or diabetes or this, but just ate poorly, they had white matter disease at age 12.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now imagine what that means. We're not talking about their brain didn't have all the nutrient. We're talking about pathology of white matter disease starting at age 12. So nutrition and food is important from the very moment that, pre-birth. We just did a review that looked at the importance of omegas at pre-birth to birth to post-birth. But food is critical. And if people think that they're going to be protein deficient, first of all, that's the biggest myth of them all if you're whole food
Right.
plant-based.
Get rid of that one.
Yeah, but you're going to be overwhelmed by nutrients, which is the most important thing in your, and the only thing you have to be aware of as if you go whole food plant-based, but not just whole food plant-based, all of America, all of the world should be aware of this. 2 things, omega and B12. And it's not a plant-based problem, it's a human problem.
Right.
And I was a public health person at the national level. And I know this, that when you go to most other countries, B12 deficiency, even if people had meat or is a ubiquitous concept. So just being aware of that, you just get rid of 2 problems, but you add 1,000 nutrients, 1,000 positive things for the brain of the children to grow without the overstimulation of sugar, without the vascular cognitive capacity of fats. Isn't that what you want for your children?
But what should we tell children to eat for particularly those 2, B12 and omega? What shall we, I asked in the last session, how does chicken fingers, pizza, Coca-Cola and French fries, how does that bode well for the adolescent brain?
Oh,
Not
But
at all.
but in your words, you said it's so important for children or young people to know at least those couple of things. So what foods in particular for the brain for young people with
Yeah.
B12 and omega-6 or 3?
Yeah, so it's important for them to eat a variety of plants. And when it comes to children's brain, I think it's important for us to highlight the importance of good foods and increasing good foods, but it's also very important for us to get rid of bad foods, because you don't want the brain to be in damage control mode. You want the brain to thrive. It's it's a growth period. So eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, but on top of it, so including nuts, including extra virgin olive oil, including foods that are fortified with vitamin B12, having their vitamin B12 checked on a regular basis to make sure that it's not low. I think if we look at it from that perspective, that can assure a beautiful environment for their brains. And I think it's important because, we always try to focus on disease prevention, but why not give them that opportunity for their brains to grow at a very, very critical time?
And also it sounds like it's just occurring to me that when we eat the young people and adults, of course, eat the so-called bad foods, it's really stressing the brain. It really wouldn't maybe allow the brain to come up with all the right answers on the next test or et cetera, because the brain would be
we did a
stressing.
study.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we did a study just on that. Wonderful research source, and we did a study on insulin resistance, not diabetes. We excluded diabetics, pre-diabetics, or even people who had high sugar levels. So high sugar levels over a period of time was associated with. Now you take a 12-year-old boy who's hyper to begin with, and you put him in a class of 35, but beforehand you give him a sugary cereal full of sugar and fat, and then you tell him to stay quiet for 8 hours. Whose problem was that? I mean,
Hours.
it's bewildering. And then if you can't stay quiet, you pump them out with Adderall. Now, there is such a thing as ADHD. It should be diagnosed.
Absolutely.
But there's this whole world of avoidance and health that we're ignoring. A 9-10-year-old boy in a class of 35 boys with sugar in his system running like crazy, his sugar levels spiking up, his brain is just pumping, and then you ask for him to be focused.
And be creative and learn and grow.
And where did he get those ideas and that input? From our culture, from his parents, probably not from his teachers. But you were saying before, when you go to other countries, you taste other foods. You're tasting their culture. When people taste American culture, Western culture, what are they tasting? The thing you're describing that makes a mess of perhaps 50, I don't know the percent of children that are influenced by food and poor food choices, but it's our culture. It's like what everybody else is, the kids thinking that's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And they're even getting that in their school lunch, some of that the processed food. So
I also say, having just launched 2 boys to college, you know, sometimes you can't make teenagers sometimes eat the way you want them to eat all the time. But if you constantly are modeling the behaviors and the habits that you want them to have later, it actually does kick in. Miraculously, they go to school and then they have an apartment and they set up their kitchen and then they start making the foods that are familiar to them. And those are the things that they've had growing up. So sometimes it feels like a struggle with kids because they don't always do or eat what you want them to. But
it's really
pay the course and it pays off later.
It's a really good point, Annie, because somehow when they get on their own and it's their responsibility, after they sugar up for 10 weeks, they really start to shape up, very much mirroring the culture they grew up in their parents.
Call for the smoothie recipe.
Speaking of that, for Aisha and Dr. Dean, I'm skipping over a whole bunch of questions, but I've seen some great recipes on your website, and I want to know more about the Totally Possible Burger, because in fact, what I made for lunch today was the Possible Burger, and I love them. I think
good.
At least the way they came out for me, they were absolutely delicious. And they had tons of, as you call it, brain building ingredients. So just tell people, if you can, anything you know about what's in the Impossible Burger, just in general, and what is in your brain building Possible Burger.
Sure. No, first of all, thank you, Glenda. I can't tell you how happy I feel when people make my recipes and then they give me feedback and they love it. So I'm really, really excited that you made it. So the name Totally Possible Burger, my daughter actually chose it because, we've had Impossible Burgers and they taste good, but again, they're quite processed and they have a lot of sugar and they have a lot of coconut oil, which is very high in saturated fat. So as much as we like eating it once in a while, we wanted to recreate something that we could easily put together at home so that we could freeze it in the freezer and just take it out, make them and, have it for lunch or dinner. And so we came up with this recipe, and it has oats, it has lentils, it has beets, it has so many spices and some, really savory elements like nutritional yeast as well. And it's really easy to make. The first time, there's a lot of ingredients to put together, but just the combination of those textures and tastes make it really special. So thank you for making it.
Yeah, I mean, just take one of those elements, beets. It has it stimulates nitric oxide in the body, which is one of the most potent vascular vasodilators in the body.
Right.
Now, given that the brain has 400 miles of vasculature, it's the most vascular organ. One of the things that happen as we get older is the tenuous nature of vasculature in the brain and the blood supply. That's why exercise is so important, especially leg exercises. But we'll come back to that. But when you eat a food that with every meal, you either clog up and inflame those vessels, or you open up and grow those vessels, or not so much growth, but open them up and make them more resilient and pliable with every meal. And something like that, which is actually familiar to us, burger, but you flip it and make it healthy. That's how you get your kid. So it's a wonderful, for us, it's a wonderful thing we use when we throw parties.
I almost feel like I'm tricking my kids, because here is a burger that has amazing ingredients in it, and it's put together in a way that you can't really tell that this has lentils or this has so many spices, but each and every element is brain healthy.
And it held together very well, came out beautifully browned. I thought it was terrific.
Oh, thank you very much,
that.
Glenda.
So I wonder if, as you were saying, like, why don't we test kids? Do they have low or high B12, and us too? Do we have a test for brain health? At this moment, do we have a test for brain health?
Yeah, of course, we have the generic brain health tests like MOCA and all of this other stuff.
The neuropsychological.
The neuropsychological stuff. Depends on what age we're talking about. For children, for general population, I would say there are tests that actually look at attention and memory. Those are the two things that to look at for children, especially attention. I've written about this, and Aisha has written about this. We say that focus is the gatekeeper of consciousness. Okay. So if focus is the gatekeeper of consciousness, and if you're not affecting focus, forget about memory and executive function and all of that stuff. So you have to really help children develop focus. Now, not all video games are bad. In fact, some of them are good if they're built around focus.
Right.
But a lot of other things around us is focus destructive. Very active multitasking. We say there's no such thing as multitasking. There's doing multiple things badly. Yes. So ability to focus on a stream of thought, teaching kids how to do that. Food and how it affects focus. If you work on focus and test focus, then memory comes, then executive function comes, and everything else comes. That's why approaching it this way becomes so empowering, because it doesn't take tremendous amount of resources.
Right.
It doesn't take a blue jellyfish pill, or I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get you guys in trouble. It's just real life being manifested in a healthy way. And then focus is meditation, mindfulness, but also the act of focusing on everything you do. You know, they always say that the being present. Well, what does that mean? Being present means attentive to the very thing in front of you in isolation to others.
It's funny because that would be a good definition or a way to do cooking. One of the things you have to do very much when you're making even simple things is very much focus. You can't be dreaming about some other things while you're cooking and burning and slicing and dicing.
That's why I want people to learn how to cook.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's why we talked in another segment about kids learning to cook, so that they get those ideas about focus, but you get a nice reward at the end.
I was going to mention that there's a school in Thailand where they have a school in Thailand where they make bread, and it's actually a meditative process. Nobody speaks, and they just focus on that one action. So anything, whether it's cooking or writing or painting or dishwashing, it could be a meditative process if you completely focus on it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Thich Nhat Hanh really talks about that, and especially about dishwashing.
Yeah.
Well, this is a little bit serious question, but I know that you are seriously concerned about finding the cure or preventing Alzheimer's. And it has been suggested that the cure for aging might be the cure for Alzheimer's. I wonder what your thought is on that.
Yeah, in many ways, that's true. So we don't think that, so a disease is either a multifactorial process that accumulates over time, or a singular pathway that's as a result of a lesion or abnormality of genetics, okay? I'll simple. So there are diseases that are driven by one gene, Huntington's disease. If a person has an abnormality on chromosome 4 at a certain point in that gene, they're going to get the disease no matter what we do. But for a great majority of chronic diseases of aging, it's not one lesion. It's the genes just give you risk, but it has to do with multiple traumas that accumulate over a lifetime. So, for example, for Alzheimer's, only 3% of Alzheimer's is driven by the kinds of genes that's similar to Huntington's, meaning that if you have those genes, no matter what you do, you're going to get the Alzheimer's. Only 3%. That's how we came up with the 90% plus. The other 90% plus are polygenetic, and they're not Alzheimer's genes. They're risk genes because they have to do with your lipid transport or fat transport, the ApoE4, or with your immune response. So if you have bad genes for your immune response, if you live the kind of life that challenges that immune response too much, your bad genes means that you're going to be overwhelmed. So if you have bad genes, you lower your risk by eating better foods, less, inflammatory foods, that even when you have bad genes, it doesn't manifest. So Alzheimer's is accumulation of trauma throughout life. Aging is accumulation of trauma throughout life. And how do you reduce that? By reducing the trauma.
Excellent.
I
Yeah,
love
so
that.
we have lots to look forward to in the possibilities of hope for really diminishing these diseases and the spread of it's the other pandemic, the pandemic of after COVID, the pandemic of the spread of neurodegenerative diseases,
Right.
for which we have no cure. And yet you are implying that we do have if not a cure, a great help for prevention. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, prevention.
And what I was asking you before, and I want to end on this, I believe that all of us have some similar goals and missions in using food to, as I said, diminish the neurodegenerative diseases, and all by either prevention, lifestyle intervention. And so Aspen Brain Institute has a potential very big project that we want to work on. And it has to do with trying to make Aspen, just because we live here, a model brain healthy community. And that's why I would love all of your, both Team Sherzais and Dr. Annie, your help in saying that you might work with us to tell us, I know that you all have brain healthy programs for brain healthy living. And where would you even start for an ambitious program of trying to make a community, perhaps like the one you live in Loma Linda? Is it, I believe it is a brain healthy community, is it?
So our non-for-profit is called Healthy Minds Initiative, which is all our, whatever we make from books and everything else goes to our healthymindsinitiative.org. And we've actually started, we have a really unique and multifaceted brain healthy program that we can start in different communities. And we already started it. And this is the largest study in the country in beach cities, which is Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach. And we now have started another one in Sedona and Northern Arizona, and another one in the African-American churches in LA, and in other places as well, hopefully in Dallas pretty soon.
Yes.
And we would love to partner, and we would actually contribute from ourselves, from our own funds, to start this in your community, because we think that's so much more important than pushing pills for this.
I think opening up the channels of communication between the scientific community and community leaders is key. For a very long time, all this incredible information about brain health has been, secluded in the echo chambers of the scientific community. And if we can all help create brain health ambassadors in any community, for them to be the leaders in the conversations and create programs that fit each community, because it's not a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
Something might fit one community and might be completely foreign and uncomfortable for another. So, a community-based participatory research, which is what we're doing, is key into sharing and disseminating this incredibly empowering message of brain health.
And here's one other thing, a little nuance. Most of these studies have to be, not all, but most are centered around women. Why? Not because of cooking, because men should be cooking as well. I mean, I didn't contribute too much here, but I usually do. I did a lot of the eating.
and the dishwashing.
but having been having done public health at the national level at several countries, I can tell you this is a fact. $1 spent on women in a community is 4 times more effective than any other activity of public health. So all our programs are centered around women, training, and community-based participatory research. So, and we'll donate our funds and our time because it's that important. So yeah, we would love to partner with you guys.
Well, that's very exciting. And we're running out of time now, but it is the greatest pleasure to meet both of you, Annie and the team Sherzais. What a great partnership, the 3 of you, great models, great cooks, great professionals, and great scientists. So thank you so much for your participation. And I have to say something. I have to put in an announcement. I want to remind everybody that this session's recording is available on our website, aspenbraininstitute.org. And also, I am so excited to remind everyone that we're having an auction coming up very soon called the Gift of Good Health auction. And it'll be launched on November 27th. And it's still going on when our program is aired. And we have some really exciting items in so many different categories. We have a stay at a beautiful winery in Santa Barbara and private transcendental meditation with Bob Roth, Teacher to the Stars. And we have an interesting category called Time with Great Minds. So we hope all of you will participate. And now that's it. And I want to see all of you next week. And let's get cooking. Ciao, everyone.